Welcome to the Queer Witch Project, your resource for all things queer and witchy. I am Damona Peacock, a fabulous, non-binary, neurospicy, ordained queerdo with a fascination for all things cycles, symbolism, and patterns.
And I'm Moonkittee, your queer femme, poly kitchen witch, and proud geek. Today's topic is a queer basics of getting started with sigil work.
Ooh,
So,
sigils.
sigil. So, with that in mind, what is a sigil?
Great question. So a sigil is a symbol for a thought or an intent or a purpose, sometimes like a magical spell. And it can be created in different ways, using different symbols to symbolize your intention behind creating the sigil. But I feel like it's just a little piece of magic,
hmm I,
symbolic
no,
intent, purpose. I don't know. What do you think?
I tend to think of it as basically a symbol that's created for a purpose.
Okay.
In a short term. So it's a lot of what you just said, and I love the way that you just talked about like branding for a thing. You see the golden arches and you know that's McDonald's. So that is
Right.
a symbol of something that was created for a purpose to brand
Mm-hmm.
something. In the
Yeah.
same way, a sigil is a magical terminology phrase for doing something that's very, very similar. And it's usually used to direct or manifest energy. It can be used for a number of different things. I mean, you can use it for
Protection.
resistance, protection, spell casting in abundance, or anything else that you want.
Any idea that you would cast a spell for, you
hmm
could create a sigil for, and then you could use that sigil in various ways.
Right. So with the way that you would use them, there's so many different ways. Like you mentioned, there's so many different ways. Personally, I tend to either carve it into a candle if I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
candle magic, or I will do a sigil and draw it on a piece of paper, roll that piece of paper up, tie it with a colored string that corresponds to the nature of the type of spell that it is, and put it somewhere. So if it's a sigil for protection in my car, I'll tuck it into the bottom of my glove box. Or if it's a symbol for what I want to accomplish in the next year, then it's something I'll put on my altar with my abundance tree. It really can be done in a lot of different ways. Those are the two primary ways that I use sigils. But what about you?
Well, I like that you said, draw it out on a piece of paper, and I
hmm
like how you created like a scroll, but my thought is you can also burn it,
hmm
like burning life into it or releasing its magic into the
hmm
world. So I had created a sigil for abundance before I apply for a job or seek income in some way, and maybe burn it and like release that energy of calling in and being receptive to abundance into the
hmm
world. So you could burn a sigil, but there's, like you said, all kinds of other ways. I imagine, you can go out to, if you live near the ocean, or a lake or the beach somewhere with a sandy beach, and you could take a stick and you could carve your sigil into the wet sand near the edge of the water, and you can watch the water reclaim it
hmm
and think of it being released into the world. So, think about, you could even like embroider a sigil into a piece of cloth
hmm
or decorate it onto your body
hmm
if you want to embody the energy or intention of that symbol
hmm
of that sigil that you have created with your intent and purpose.
hmm
I feel like there's other ones we might have talked about. There are really just so many ways that you could
Right.
use a sigil. It's
If
like taking a piece, an idea that you have created that's personalized to you because it means something to you, and placing it somewhere important or releasing it into the world somehow to let its magic do its thing.
mhm. If you are planting a garden, you can arrange your plants in a sigil
Ooh.
format, or if you're doing landscaping in say a backyard or someplace where you'd want that longer term kind of um, growth pattern or longer term protection where you don't need to think about it. That's another great way of doing it. You mentioned body paint. I know you do henna.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great one. We've all done sigils in our friend group that way from you.
And
Um,
even sometimes people will get it tattooed on them if
mhm,
it's like really that deeply meaningful and something they want permanently, for the rest of their life. I know people who have created some kind of sigil. In fact, even though my tattoos aren't sigils, I know that I've put a lot of thought and meaning into them
mhm.
before I would commit them onto my body. So that's just even another way that you could incorporate some kind of magic into.
Hmm. You can use them any place you want that magic. So I mentioned in my car, there's a sigil
Yeah,
for protection, just like I have crystals
I
for
like it.
protection in there. Around your house. You can tuck it and
Mm-hmm.
roll it up in your purse for either protection or abundance coming in. Another great one that I love to do is put it between my phone and the phone case.
Oh, wow.
So that way there is a constant flow of energy from the electricity in the phone into that sigil. So it's low lying, working all the time. Yeah, body paint, henna,
That's
tattoos, all those kinds of things. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate a sigil, either overt or hidden or wherever,
yeah.
whatever you need
Yeah, I mean, you
to.
can definitely just put it on your altar,
Mhm, yeah.
and light candles in front of it. Or like you said with hidden, I remember we have used in the past a tradition where in the new year we would create a piece of artwork that would kind of symbolize our growth of that year.
Hmm.
But underneath the artwork, which was always some kind of tree,
Hmm.
open to interpretation. But before we ever put the artwork on the canvas, we would create a sigil
Hmm.
that would represent what we wanted to, bring in or grow in that year. So the
Hmm.
sigil would go on the canvas, and then we would put the artwork on the canvas, and then we would have that artwork for the year, and then at the end of the year we would burn it.
Hmm.
So that's one of my favorite traditions that we've used, both sigil magic and all
Hmm.
those other ways of working with it.
Right. And with sigil magic, it's because it's so accessible to everyone. It's not a closed practice as far as we know. It's because it's in just in the same way, like you said, with words themselves
Yeah.
are not direct pictures of you spell the word apple, it's not a direct picture of an apple, but we know whatever language you're using in, it's defined terms that create the shape that means apple, right?
Yeah.
So because that's a universal kind of thing, sigils tend to be a universally open system. Now there may be closed practices in the way they're created, but the concept of a sigil and how you use a sigil in a magical practice is a nice open one that's available and accessible to anyone. It is literally accessible. You do not need fancy things. Like you said, you can draw this in the dirt with a stick that you found. There is no cost associated necessarily with them. There can be if you want to get super fancy, but you don't need anything beyond your own imagination and a basic drawing tool to be able to create a sigil.
Well, with that said, then how do you create a sigil? Because you also need a little bit of know-how, right?
Right, there is that, and something that's learned. Now, I know both you and I
Mhm.
learned from a really big name
Um,
pagan who's really an amazing human, Laura
love her.
Tempest Zakroff. She is phenomenal. She's got so many books. She's got an amazing website. She's got
Highly
amazing YouTube
recommend.
channel. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Cannot recommend her stuff enough. So we both learned from
Hmm.
Laura Tempest Zakroff, and then I've just picked up other ways down the road since then. There's
So
so many different styles and how you create
Laura,
them.
just since we mentioned her, Laura Tempest
Hmm.
Zakroff, she has a couple of books specifically that would help people with, sigil magic. Her first book is Sigil Witchery, and then she has a second book called Visual Alchemy because she's also an
Hmm.
and author. And then she has a deck of cards, which we'll talk about. But you can definitely look her up at lauratempestzacroft.com. And she has a page specifically for sigils if you want to dive deeper into sigils. She also has like an offering of like many sigils that she's created with groups of people over the years as she's taught her sigil classes. And she lists a lot of them on her website, they're really cool. So if you try working with a sigil that's already been created by someone
Hmm.
and you find one on her page that fits a purpose that you're passionate about, try it out.
Hmm.
That's an easy way to get started if you don't want to start with making your own. But if you were to start with
Hmm.
making your own,
Hmm.
do you have we have some techniques that we could recommend.
Yes, and one more thing before I talk about the techniques is what I love about that page and her stuff is she's putting them out for public use.
Yeah.
And that is something that, again, you want to specify. If you are using someone else's sigils, make sure that it is accessible for public use and you're not using the property of someone else
Hmm.
because the magic is not going to work for you. If you're borrowing someone else's and you're essentially plagiarizing or stealing someone else's idea, the intent behind the magical purpose behind that is not going to be as effective as one that is designed for public use or public consumption or
And
creating your own.
with that thought, if there is a sigil that's created for and intended for public use, imagine the amount of power that
Mm-hmm.
is in that sigil that has been co-created with the communities. And I love the sigils that she has created because I know that she takes in a lot of input. She co-creates it with a lot of community, and
Mm-hmm.
then she puts it out, and a lot of people will use it. And I just imagine that that helps feed the power of the magic
Mm-hmm.
itself. So
Exactly.
it's really cool if there are people out there making them for public use
Yes.
to get into borrowing already
Mm-hmm.
created sigils. But then it's also amazingly powerful to create your own, because when you create your own, it means something to you
Mm-hmm.
because you chose things that symbolize things that are meaningful to you.
Right. Now, there are so many different ways. We'll talk about a few different ones, but the first one that I learned, and I think we learned from the very, very basics for a sigil, starts with the alphabet. And the way that I tend to do sigils with this is I will write out a word or a phrase. Now, knowing me and my tendency to overcompensate, I will write out like a paragraph, which really probably is defeating the purpose because by the time I'm done, I've got all the letters in it. But if you can narrow it down to a few words or concepts that kind of do the focus of what you mean, you write out the word, you remove the vowels out of it and any duplicative letters. So if you write the word strong, and growth. So you would take out the O and then you would take out the O and growth. So the strong and growth both have an O. So you get rid of those. You have S T R and G, G R T H, W T H. So you get rid of any duplicative letters. You got S T R and G. You don't need the other G again for growth because you already have that. You already have the R. You would then add a W because you didn't have the W there, and H because it's not in. I guess if you put strength or strong, it would not be an H potentially in that. So now you take those letters, and now you can create a symbol using those letters. So you
You
make
basically would write the letters on top of each other, right?
right. You can kind of write the letters on top of each other. And you might start with the S because that's a nice big curve that you can build things off of and maybe make a cross down the center of it. Now you've got a T in the middle of your S. And just add little lines or little things that kind of bring out. So now you've got parallel lines across your crossbar, and now you've got an H inside of your T on your S. So you can
Mm.
build things out that way with the basics of the alphabet. That's
So eventually you would have a symbol that is created from consonants, essentially,
mm-hmm,
from the concept or idea that you're trying to empower
mm-hmm,
into this symbol.
exactly.
I like it.
So it's yeah, really simple way.
And then you would take that symbol and use it however
Mm-hmm,
you would want. Different ways we've said we could put it on a candle,
mm-hmm.
burn it on paper,
Yeah,
sand.
roll it up,
Um,
keep it, tuck it away, bury it. Yeah, whatever you wanted to
yeah, I
do.
definitely think about not just our letters being things that are sigil-like, because
Mm-hmm,
they're basically written code for a sound that we make with our mouth.
mm-hmm,
But that made me think about how the runes were also an alphabet,
mm-hmm,
and they're big symbols for all of these huge concepts
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
energies. So, and then you could even take not just letters, but you could take, if you're trying to build a sigil, you could take runes. You could take other symbols, other
Mm-hmm,
things like there's different symbols for elements or planets or zodiacs. All of these kind of things could be incorporated to make a sigil.
mm-hmm. Exactly. That's kind of the second way of like a symbology way, taking things that represent words or concepts and constructs on a larger sense and putting them together into something.
And that's the
Um,
way that we learned
mhm,
from Laura Tempest Zakroff, right? When we were doing
right.
because we've both at separate times
Yes.
attended a sigil class of that Laura has taught, because she has taught them in
hmm
various places. And because I think I took hers over, like it was after during the pandemic, and I think I did it over like a Zoom. It was really
hmm
cool. And I think you took her class in person.
Yeah, at like PantheaCon a couple years.
Yeah. So her technique, if I can remember correctly, how she taught us is first we would all as a group in a class, we would agree on the concept of what we want the sigil to be for. So maybe it would be for protection and resilience and resistance for the queer community in the face of the current
Mm-hmm.
politics. So that would be the wider concept. And then from there, we would choose words that kind of represent like subcategories or the energies that would basically be the recipe that would create the energy of protection and for towards resilience and resistance of for the queer community in the face
Mm-hmm.
of the. And so like words like, I don't know, peace, protection, safety, strength and community, words or concepts like that. And then for each word or concept, we would choose a symbol that would symbolize that. So strength might be like a tree, the trunk of a tree, or something, the strength of wood or strength of growth. For peace, obviously like a peace symbol, a peace sign. We see those on, hippie paraphernalia everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you just have all of these different concepts, and you would choose the different symbols that would symbolize all the concepts that would make up this magic of this broader category. And then you take all of these drawn symbols, like, if you want something that has the element of water, maybe like a raindrop, or the element of starting something new, you would make a seed. So anyways, whatever, you would take all of these pictures that you have that represent these ideas, and you would somehow build one sigil incorporating all of these different little pictures that all symbolize these ideas,
Mm-hmm.
that all point towards this huge working or magic. Again, symbolic language is huge. It goes back to, what does this mean to you? What could you draw a stick figure of that would represent this idea? You know, again, like I said, you could incorporate different planets, different zodiac, different thing. Just depends on what your big idea is that what magic you're trying to build into.
Mm-hmm. So that would be the second symbology kind
Yes,
of
the
thing, taking
symbolic
this
approach.
the symbolic approach. A third approach that I learned, that it's kind of a variant off of the alphabet style. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm looking back and I'm going, I remember these from Laura's classes, but I also remember taking a sigil class from someone else where I learned the basics of the alphabet before that. So I'm thinking I might be
Nice.
conflating the two in my mind, but I know I have taken a Laura class as well. So I know that there's
Yeah.
that one, but I've also taken the alphabet initially as the route for building the sigil foundation. So, but recently, so I've done both of those. And then I recently came across one that someone else had talked about, which is a wheel aspect. So you take the alphabet or the symbols, you can use a symbol concept as well in the same way, is you do all of the, what you did before with the removing the vowels and duplicative letters, and arrange them around a wheel. So draw a circle on a piece of paper and write all the letters of the alphabet around that in a random order. So not A, B, C, D, E around, but A, B minus the vowels all around the thing. And then you could put all around that your symbol for air, your symbol for fire, your symbol for peace, your symbol for whatever it may be. Add those to the letters around the wheel, and then draw from point. You decide where you want to start, and then draw your map line going to each symbol coming down. And that can also be a more simplified, like almost like a constellation aspect of drawing a very simplified sigil, using again the same concepts that you talked about of knowing that this is what it stood for, breaking it down and putting it together.
And so then eventually you would take the wheel away, and you
Uh-huh.
would just keep what was
Keep
in the
what's in the
middle,
center.
and that would be your sigil.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Yeah. And so that's really just, three ideas of
Mm-hmm.
ways you could create a sigil, but I'm sure there are so many more approaches out there. I'm
Oh yeah.
sure some expert out there knows the ancient secret way of making of making sigil, but we here at the Queer Witch Project say that it's a create your own adventure
Mm-hmm.
sort of spirituality, and you do what works for you.
Exactly. There's no one true way to do anything. Um,
Yes, there are definitely people out there who I've seen leave comments being like, "Oh, that's not the right way. This is the only right way to do the sigil magic because I was learned from, past lives of thousands of whatever, dude."
mhm. Cool. Like, well, I'm happy it works for you,
Right.
but that's not saying the other processes don't work for other people.
Yeah.
Something else with sigils that we didn't touch on is, along with the sigil itself, there's also the placement of how you're putting that sigil together. So are you putting things, if you're drawing something, are you putting things inside or outside? are you drawing spirals? Are you spiraling things in, or are you spiraling energy out
See, that
for
would be
protection?
hugely dependent upon if you're calling things in, like
Hmm.
abundance, or if you're, like you said, protection, so you're sending energy out to safety bubble.
Right, exactly. So if you're trying to draw in money, you don't want an arrow pointing outwards,
Right.
right? In your
You want
sigil,
it coming
you
in.
want it coming in to how that energy is kind of directed.
And you can even
Also,
think about like directions, like
hmm
on a compass, whether you're
hmm
putting things in the north, east, west, south of the paper,
hmm
or whether something's being drawn inside something else, contained by it, or outside of something,
hmm
above or below,
hmm
symmetrical or asymmetrical. Those are decisions that you have to make when you're creating your sigil as to what, what what that means.
hmm
What does it mean to have an asymmetrical sigil versus a symmetrical sigil?
hmm And what does it mean to you? Because it may mean
Exactly.
one thing to you that may be something else to others. If you're trying to achieve balance, maybe an asymmetrical symbol is not the best way to go about it. But if you're trying
Right.
to shake yourself up a little bit and get out of stasis, an asymmetrical symbol could be very, very useful. So
Now
thinking about how you want
also
to do and what you want to do with it.
This also reminds me that you can incorporate things like numerology into
Hmm
how you create your sigil. So, if, for example, you're trying to start a new business, and I mentioned seeds are really
hmm
good, you drawing little seeds or dots to represent planting something new. But
hmm
how many of those dots would you put in your sigil? Well, consider, the numerology, what number, one, two, three, up to nine, would most encompass the energy or power that you want to put into starting this new business. Like personally, if it was a new business, I'd probably use eight because
hmm
eight is all of, the self-mastery and success and business minded number. So that's another way that you can put, so there's so much thought that you can put into building this symbol
hmm
of your idea. You can use things that mean these things and this that means that, and numbers that because it means this, and it just depends on how much meaning and intention and thought and work you want to
hmm
put into this little piece of magic.
Right. Adding your zodiac sign if you're trying to harness the energy of the zodiac, or even those standardized things that have universally recognized meanings. A heart, a star, a
Yeah.
cross generally means faith of some sort. Whatever it may be, those universally recognized symbols,
Or
we've have put
crossroads.
energy into, yeah, crossroads, a key, things
Uh-huh.
like that all have this kind of universally social energy that we put into it as a species, as we recognize this as this. And the energy
Yep.
behind it can also be really,
It also means that you can go to your roots and consider, using, if you have ancestry from
mhm,
different, that have, used different languages in ancestral past,
mhm,
you could also go back and try to incorporate some of that into your sigil
mhm,
by using a letter or a symbol from your ancestry and
right.
calling in that ancestral energy into
Mhm.
your sigil.
Ultimately, I think what we're taking away from this is every sigil that you create you can use publicly recognized ones, which we talked about, but also if you're creating a sigil, it's a spell that's unique to you.
Yep.
Um, and make it about you. Make it about what you want, your desire, because ultimately that's what is going to give it the energetic push to manifest.
Yay. I love
Now,
it.
the cool thing about sigils is once you build them, they're kind of self-sustaining in a lot of ways. You can't, if you're doing something like a permanent one on your body, it's a constant reminder that it's there. But even still, a tattoo, you may see it every day, but you're not seeing it every minute, every second of the day and recognizing that it's there. It works in the background. And that's one of the things that I tend to really like about sigils is sometimes they work best if you put it somewhere and forget about it and just trust that it's going to keep on working. So like I said, the protection ones that I have in my car, I I put it in there and then it's there. It's just going to be in there.
Hmm.
I don't think about it every moment that I'm in the car, or the one behind my phone case. Same thing. I'm letting the energy of the phone itself kind of charge it, and it does its own kind of manifestation. So there's something that's really cool about that kind of knowing that it can work in the background even if you forget about it.
I think it's interesting that you say you can just set it and forget it, because I also think of it as something that it can be like a constant reminder of work and energy and that you're pouring out into the world. Like just like you would put affirmations up on a mirror to constantly remind you, of whatever the affirmation is that you're trying to constantly remember. You could put a sigil up on a mirror that you use every day to brush your teeth or hair or whatever, and be constantly reminded of that energy and that working, and that you're drawing in this abundance, or that you are set with protection and purpose, and whatever it is, whatever it symbolizes. So it can be a set it and forget it, but it
Mm-hmm.
could also be somewhere you put it where it's a consistent reminder to engage with that energy.
Mm-hmm. It's great. That's one of the reasons,
Yeah,
again,
it's
why they're
very
so
versatile.
cool is they're so versatile.
Yeah, so I hope that some of our listeners get inspired by this episode and
Mm-hmm.
maybe make some of their own sigils
Mm-hmm.
and start playing with. Check out Laura Tempest Ackroft's website and check out some of her amazing
Mm-hmm.
publicly available for usage sigils that she's created,
Mm-hmm.
and start practicing with some of your magic, some of your intention, some of
Mm-hmm.
your power, and see what happens.
Right. And I don't want to deny that there are a lot of other great sigil authors out there too. So if you
Absolutely,
look at it
I'm
and you
sure.
flip through someone else and you see someone that seems to call to you, don't be afraid to pull those too. Because like I said, you can learn through so many different perspectives to build your own practice.
Yeah, don't be afraid to put that in, sigil magic, sigil witchery, and put it in your search bar of,
Mm-hmm.
one social media or Google or whatever
Mm-hmm.
platform you want to use, and see if you can find other practitioners out there talking about this kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. Do you think we've covered it all?
I think we're good.
I mean, we've scratched the surface. As with
Yes.
everything,
Mm-hmm.
it's a rabbit hole. We could always get deeper, but we've only got so long to do with the
Mm-hmm.
podcast time. So I just want to thank you all for listening to the Queer Witch Project. And if you like what you heard, make sure you give us a thumbs up, or 5 stars, or 10 stars, or, a subscription. Follow us. We love hearing from you.
And if there's a topic you want to know more about or an episode topic you'd like to suggest, contact us at thequeerwitchproject@gmail.com or find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube with the handle @queerwitchproject. We upload every other week. And remember, queerness is a key to magic.
Be yourself and love rebelliously. Bye.
Bye!